Hey, this is Jose Galison of No Way Jose. Today, this episode is not going to be on the Liberty Movement YouTube channel because this one's going to be a little bit more on the political side, and so we keep that content off there. It's kind of ironic. That was my first time using that fucking intro, and you kind of saw I said like non-political, but I'm expanding my brand a little bit. Giving thanks to Daniel Elwood of Actual Anarchy for that. He did that up for me just out of the blue. So, like I've said before, like if you're someone who's going to podcast, get into it. It's a good community. People willing to help. We know the interview, all that good shit. With that, today, let's get into what the subject for today is. The subject for today is going to be agorism versus politics. And the inspiration for this came from a tweet from Sal Mayweather. And I'll read it right now so you guys know where I'm coming from. And I'll bring the guest is Sal. And I'll bring Sal in a minute so he can elaborate and we can kind of go into it. It says, don't be fooled, friends. The most dangerous element of the partyarchy is the LP Mises caucus. They siphon anarchists from the counter economy and persuade them to waste their efforts on inefficient and immoral tactics like politics and government. This was very contentious. A lot of people got super butthurt about it. But I completely get where he's coming from as an agorist. And I understand it because I've read all of Conker's work. I get what he's saying. I mean, I don't necessarily have any ill will towards LPMC. I mean, my differences is tactics. And I always caveat everything that I say, anything that I say with, I could be wrong. This is something I came to recently. Who knows? Maybe I'll come across some good logic that changes my mind. But as of now, I'm of the opinion that tactically that's not the way to go. And we'll go into that more. But the reason why I want to do this, the real reason I want to do this is because looking at all the comments in this, it really illustrated a lot of misconceptions people have about agorism. So not to do a fucking solo episode, let's pull Sal in here and we'll get into that. I'll get you in here. What's up, Sal?
What's up, man? Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yeah. How you digging Florida, man?
Dude, it's beautiful, man. Like we were saying earlier, at the weather, the women, it's you can't beat it. No masks, no muzzles, Cuban food. It's pretty good life.
Yeah, I just went to the fair the other day with my kids, and it was fucking great. Like, cause like my kids are I've already gotten conditioned to have to fucking bring their masks everywhere and shit. I fucking hate it. But like, it was great. I went there and it was probably well over half the people there didn't have masks on. No one gave a shit. And it was just awesome. So
it's the best part about Florida, man. Everywhere I go, I didn't wear the muzzle in New Jersey, so I'm damn sure not going to wear it, here. So
yeah, I mean, it's funny because I do I'm that way. I mean, I've said in previous episodes that I do wear a mask somewhere. It depends on the situation, but vast majority of places I don't but it's I think I've spent pretty much mostly the only place I wear it for the most part is I have a grocery store nearby in an elderly community. So it's just it's just not even worth the hassle because it's all old people. They're borderline on their deathbeds. So it's whatever. But yeah, aside from that, I pretty much don't wear it. And no one really ever cares, especially here in Florida, which is great. So it's if it's almost kind of a yeah, you have the signs on the door. And to be honest, if anyone ever came to me and was like, hey, wear your mask, I'd be like, okay, sorry, my bad. But I mean, that's just me. But I'm not going to do it until you tell me to. And I get the signs on there, and people get all butthurt with their property rights and stuff. And I agree with property rights, but it's I feel like it's on the property owner to be if they don't like it, then they can be get out, or they can be or they can kindly ask me to, or get out. So.
Yeah, exactly. That's sort of my philosophy too. If I'm not going to wear it, and if somebody asks me to wear it, I still won't put it on, but I will leave peacefully if that's the case.
Yeah.
I have had a couple issues where although not really here in Florida, honestly, so much, but in Walmart, everybody was wearing the mask everybody was wearing the muzzle into Walmart, and there was a cop at the door. So I pulled my shirt over my face and I was like, hey man, is this some law or something? And he's like, oh yeah, Walmart can get in big trouble. And I was like, I don't give a shit if Walmart gets fined. And I just took my shirt down and I kept shopping, and that was the end of it.
Yeah. Oh God, what was I going to say? Oh yeah, I wanted to bring up, I kind of didn't do it earlier. I mean, this kind of fucks up the flow, but I want to mention that we did a bio episode before, and I had a lot of fun with that. I've heard from a few people that was one of their favorite episodes. So if you
cool.
Sal, go check out some shit I did with him before. We did a bio episode of him. We did a little small talk there. So let's get into the meat. You heard, I kind of went over the tweet. I kind of want to give you a chance to see if there's anything you want to elaborate on that to be more clear, or if you're good with how it stands, and then we can move on from there. because I know a lot of people had misunderstandings. I don't know if you've thought of it at all and thought maybe there's something you should be a little more clear on or anything. I mean, it's just kind of giving you a chance to clear up the water in the meantime. You know what I mean?
No, I think I'm definitely good where it stands. I think
Yeah.
that just like for a little bit of background for people, I guess sometimes we see like in the liberty community, like there sort of seems to be like a back and forth, like a struggle between what I see as like the logically consistent wing of the libertarian movement versus everyone else. And every now and then we sort of get, it's like there's like this push and pull. There's this like you take 2 steps forward and 2 steps back. So I try, whenever I see that, I try to like be proactive. And when I sense like a sort of shift towards the partyarchy, I try to like shoot it down as quickly as possible. And I'm usually not as successful as I'd like to be, but I do make the effort.
Yeah, it's funny. You did hit it. You hit the what's the saying? The iron while it's hot, or whatever the fuck. But it's like because it was like there's this shift right now where it's like people are feeling
they're trying to bring it back into style. Yeah,
and to be fair, the reason why you said that they're the most dangerous element is because they're saying the right lingo. Exactly. They're saying everything we agree with. The only thing that me and you would probably disagree with is utilizing the political system. I mean, I know they probably say for education, but like
that's the whole thing. It's like they're telling everybody we're going to end the political system. Come with us and help us build up the political system. And that's in my mind, and in Konkin's words, that's statist infiltration. That's in Konkin called it the second counterattack of the state, the Libertarian Party. And I couldn't say it better myself. I really think he hits the nail on the head right there. And that's a great example of it. Look how they're, like you said, like there's this sort of like current wave, or sort of like it's very trendy right now for libertarians to sort of revive the Libertarian Party. And it's like, how many times can you like, bring somebody back from the dead,
Yeah. I figured now it's probably a good time to bring up too. I did want to really emphasize big time that I have, like, I don't know if I said it already. We talked before. I don't have any ill will with the LPMC. They're good shit. So this is meant to be more like educational, because like the biggest thing was the responses. And I noticed that like people just had so many misconceptions. I feel like people, and I mean, to be fair, I feel like there's something that like you can't expect someone to like read everything about a concept, because people like, I occasionally will make comments about objectivism, but I haven't read all of Ayn Rand's work. But there is something too. It's like you do also got to realize that you may be misunderstanding some things. And so what we're doing, my intention here was to kind of clear up some of that stuff. So yeah, with that, I think I'm going to start out with LPMC's response to your thing. Let me find it real quick. I know this isn't the greatest fucking... Yeah. Okay, here's what they said. They said, we don't siphon anyone away from anything. We also don't discourage anyone practicing agorism. There is no reason why these things need to be mutually exclusive. We're working towards the same goal, to strip politicians of their power and control. So essentially, this is the why not both? And that's one I've been seeing a lot lately, because agorism also, I think, has become this hot thing lately. I'll be honest, I didn't learn about agorism until the coup. I read up all of Konkin during the coup, and fucking here I am now. And I agreed with a lot of it. I mean, who knows? Maybe I'll change my mind later. But as of now, his stuff really resonates with me. So like, yeah, I mean, it is a new, I mean, it's not new, but it's like it seemed to have a big insurgency during this time, is agorism, at least on the philosophical side.
I mean, Konkin died in 2004. So we're really we're in the infantile stages of this. Like, today's agorists are like the first agorists. We're like the disciples and Christ's disciples starting the church. Christ died and his disciples went around and spread the Christian gospel. Konkin died and you and I go around and spread the agorist gospel. So it is still a very new philosophy.
Yeah. I like sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to go move on to the next point and bring up your response to that. Just not that I really didn't actually have anything to expand on. I just thought it was smart. You said you seek the throne, we seek to eradicate it. But that just, and then, yeah.
Well, that's just it. And honestly, we have seen this whole why not both sort of argument. And I think, it's kind of like getting chemotherapy in the morning and then smoking 3 packs that evening, right? It doesn't make any sense. It would be like going to Alcoholics Anonymous and then coming home and drinking a bottle of Jose Cuervo. That doesn't make any sense. And participating in party politics in order to restrict the size of the state is exactly that. It's exactly analogous to it, right? You're in one perspective, you're trying to reduce the role of the government, and then in the later point in your day, when you go to the committee meeting for the Libertarian Mises Caucus, then you're legitimizing it. So it's like, which is it? Is it? Are you trying to reduce the state, or are you trying to legitimize it? And those are sort of contradictory goals, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I agree. Then I actually responded after to them, and I said, also those who say shit like agorism politics don't need to be mutually exclusive. Either are ignorant of what agorism is or being intentionally dishonest. Agorism by design is mutually exclusive from politics. So that was one thing I was getting at there, is because I feel like there's been this, because people say agorism and they just mean like counter economics, but
not even. Yeah. They just mean like holding Bitcoin on their cell phone. Like that's not agorism. It's more than most people are doing, but it's not full on agorism. And I think you hit the nail on the head with your comment there. Konkin said it was anti-politics. Mm-hmm. So if agorism is anti-politics, we're the antithesis of politics. So you can't engage in politics and anti-politics. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, and it's the thing is too is like, because I do think some people say agorism and they mean just like that, but then that would be obviously being ignorant. Because what agorism is a philosophy, essentially, in a sense. It's kind of like one point I always bring up to people is Michael Malice. A lot of people know that he's very into fucking Ayn Rand. He's always just kind of like somebody he's really into, and people have many times accused him of being an objectivist. And he goes, "No, I'm not an objectivist," but he agrees with a ton of her tenets, but then there'll be certain things he'd be like, I don't agree with this, I don't agree with that. And they're like, well, can you consider yourself an objectivist? And they're like, no, by Ayn Rand standards, I'm not. And she's the one who created this philosophy. So I don't think it would be fair for me to call myself that. And I know a lot of people would be like, oh, I'm an agorist, but I still believe in this or that. And I know all these are labels, but it is kind of like, to some extent, I understand there's wiggle rooms within certain philosophies, but if a philosophy created and it's been already established certain tenets within a philosophy, by the person who created it, it's almost kind of silly to consider yourself that if you're against those tenets. You know what I mean? It's one thing if it's like a minor thing here and there, but like that's like one of the major tenets of fucking agorism, Yeah. I agree. At least that's the way I see it. Right.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think you're right. The one point of caution, in the New Libertarian Manifesto, Congdon says something to the effect of like, don't ever like criticize someone for not being agorist enough. Like agorism exists on a spectrum. Like how agorist we are is like, it's sort of like a spectrum. Like where no one can live 1000% like counter economically, right? Unless you want to be shot by the state tomorrow. We all do it to the most that we possibly can. There's a sort of risk tolerance baked into counter economics, and every single agorist has to calculate what their risk tolerance is. It's going to be different for all individuals. We all have different circumstances. So it's all personalized to the individual. But I do agree with you that not participating in politics is one of the essential tenets. I do know a couple of people who identify as agorists who do participate in the partyarchy, and I'm not going to sit here and tell you that they're not agorists, but I certainly don't agree with that part of their behavior.
Yeah, I know. And I'm just getting at, it's like when people say shit like, why not both? It's because that is like, by definition, that's what it is not.
Right.
So exactly. I guess I get on an individual level. I mean, if I was talking to that person, I might be like, depending on my relationship, I might be like, well, technically you kind of aren't, but I get what you're saying. This is the label you choose because it's the closest thing to define yourself in your opinion. Because no label is perfect. A
couple things too, though. Like I also think within the liberty community, agorism has sort of like become like the new fad. Like it's become sort of trendy. It's like sort of cool. Like everybody wants to be an agorist, but
nobody wants to read Konkin.
Yeah. Right. Well, exactly. Yeah, that seems to be the issue at hand.
Yeah. Oh, did you have more of a point to that? I was just being a smart ass.
I did, and then my mind went blank. So.
Oh, sorry, I fucked you up.
No, you're good.
Next, I want to go into my buddy James. You've been on his podcast before. He was Urban Agorist. Now he's Blackbird. He literally just changed it. Blackbird's the name of the podcast. It's not like he's calling himself Blackbird. That'd be kind of douchey. But what is the line from Step Brothers? Like, call me, I forget what it is, like Raptor or some dumb shit. He said, he goes, party movement libertarians are junior partners in the fight for freedom. I don't think we need to fight unless they gain power. They obviously shouldn't be put on pedestals either, though. Either the training wheels will someday come off or they'll come into power and become the enemy. So the way I kind of saw this was the idea of that we should see them as almost like neutral, as to be not worried about until they become an issue. But I just want to know if you had thoughts. And I thought it was an interesting take, but I would disagree with it. I mean, I kind of get what he's getting at, though.
I understand what he's saying. Ultimately, though, I think he's a little bit off on that one because, participating in the partyarchy is not neutral behavior. That's counterproductive to our end. So they're not being neutral in that sense. They're actually harming the potential to bring about the agora by seeking to maximize the strength of one particular political party. That's not what we're doing here. So
yeah. And I guess my take would be like, even if you're doing it for like, we're going to do it for educational purposes, you're still strengthening in a sense the belief in using the political system. And it's like, and that's going to backfire later. Because like, yes, you may be the most red-pilled, most libertarian individual, but what's going to happen 4, 8, 12, 16 years down the line once you've built this up with all this great energy of people being like, yeah, fuck the state. And then like 16, however many years later, and built up this platform for people to be like, you know what, maybe we should do this, or maybe we should do that with this,
Well, that's exactly it. And that's why I can't stand when they give you like the education argument. I think that's probably the most illegitimate argument that they can give you, because it's just flat out dishonest. They're running candidates for higher office. They're donating resources to their campaigns. They're celebrating even the smallest of victory. And then they tell you, oh, we're not trying to win a campaign. We're just trying to educate the public. If they were actually trying to educate the public, Jose, they would have a show like this one, right? They wouldn't be out on the street trying to convince people to participate in a course of monopoly. That's not education. That's the opposite of education. You're trying to indoctrinate people. Education is like writing books or podcasts or blogging or something. Like, that's educational. It's not trying to exert your will on people through a course of monopoly. That's not education. I just don't buy the argument, and I think it's the lowest argument they make because it's just flat out dishonest.
To take the devil's advocate there, I would think they would say the reason why they utilize that platform is because it's one that's already there, and the idea is that it's it's a large platform they can use. But my thing was, it's a platform that's being used to, I mean, I already kind of went into that, to strengthen the political system, but it's like,
exactly.
But you're just going to screw yourself over later. You're just making it larger for someone else to be able to come and take it later. Even if you do what is the principled, or so-called principled, educational fucking push or whatever, so.
Right. And, a lot of times the argument that they tie in here is, oh, well, look at Ron Paul, right? Like, Ron Paul convinced so many people to become libertarians, and he did it by utilizing the partyarchy. And my response to all that is just like, nowadays you don't have to violate the non-aggression principle to spread the message. If you're looking for a platform, like, there's YouTube. There's like a million social media platforms out there. Pick one. Like, you don't have to run for office anymore. Like, Ron Paul is sort of, and like they asked Konkin about that too, like in an interview a long time ago, and he said Ron Paul is sort of from a different era, right? He's sort of like an old school statesman. It's not like that anymore. I don't know if it makes any sense.
Yeah, we'll attack that. I'm not attack, but we'll go after that golden goose here in a little bit. I wouldn't say attack because I do love Ronnie. He's a sweetheart.
Yeah, I agree.
We'll go into that here in a minute because that was one of them.
Okay.
Well, I was going to do if they use the party, spread the message, deliver them in, but we kind of went into the education aspect. Someone says, they're doing much better than whatever y'all are doing. So I would like your response to that because I know where you would go with it, and I feel like this is one of those lowest common denominator type arguments, but it is one that I think should be addressed because a lot of people go, "Oh, you agorists, you mean what the fuck have you guys ever done?"
Which is insane.
You there?
It's a crazy thing to say. Yeah. Did you lose me? Or did you hear me all right?
No, I can hear you. I just got a little bit of lag.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, you're good. You're good. I think that's absolutely insane for them to say something like that. Like the most Gary Johnson, the most any libertarian presidential candidate ever got was Gary Johnson. That was 3% in 2016, right? So the most that they were able to accomplish in their entire history was 3% of the vote. Now, in just since 2008, just 2008 till today, that 12-year span, Agorists have got rid of the taxi cartels with Uber. We've gotten rid of the hotel cartels with Airbnb. We have created the 3D printed gun. We've created the Silk Road using Tor and Bitcoin. Satoshi Nakamoto wrote the white paper. I mean, Monero, Dash, a million cryptocurrencies. We're about to tokenize the entire securities market. I mean, we've ended the drug war based on massive noncompliance. States were forced to capitulate all of their tyrannical laws, but we've accomplished nothing. And they're at 3%. Now, that's not even to like get into the historical like victories that we had in the 20th century over the Soviet Union using counter economics, or the victories that Gandhi had over the British Empire using counter economics. We are the only ones who are successful. They are the ones who are frankly full of shit. 3%, that's the best they've ever done. They're wasting your money. They're draining resources from the counter economy and they're putting it into inefficient and wasteful ends.
All right. Well, you get that one on the head to go with that, but it is one that needs to be brought up because people say that, and I know it like kind of almost seems dishonest, but I genuinely think for most people that comes from a place of ignorance, so they just don't know.
I agree.
They just haven't put two and two together. Yeah.
No, you're right, but I would amend that. I don't think it comes from a place of ignorance. I think it comes from a place of indoctrination and brainwashing. Like they're still hung up on the idea.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. They're still hung up on the idea that like a political party can save them. Like they still haven't cut that cord yet.
And to be fair, like politics in general probably take a higher place for brain and awareness than just that kind of stuff. Because you don't see Bitcoin and immediately think agorism. At least the normal person does. But they every few years you see political shit. So this is something that you're more. So because you see it more, you assume there is more. That more is happening out of that. But like no, this is just a silly game we do every fucking 4 to 8 years or whatever, you know. So I don't know why I said 8, but every 4 years. I guess it's different in some places too. They do like I don't know what every 2 every year. I don't even really fuck with
I think Congress is every 2. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, but you get what I'm getting at. That it's just like it's this thing that occupies your time, but it doesn't really do shit, you know. So
that's the whole thing. Like,
all right,
like what?
Okay.
My bad. I lost you in the lag again.
Good. We got a little bit of lag here, so it's thrown up. Yeah. Go ahead. I'm sorry. You seemed like you had a good thought there. Yeah.
No, I forgot what I was gonna say.
I'll let you go.
Say, my bad.
Okay. All right. Let's go after the golden goose. Let's do it. I feel bad because I love Ronnie and he's an absolute sweetheart, and this is in no way meant anything bad. But we're gonna go into it. Was Ron Paul a dangerous element of the hierarchy as well?
No, I don't think he was.
No?
Ron Paul undeniably brought a lot of people, including myself, into the liberty movement, and he did it successfully, right? I mean, it's basically his movement, right? But my argument to that, my counter argument is, well, just like we said before, nowadays you don't need to violate the non-aggression principle in order to spread the message, right? There's plenty of platforms available to you that are consistent with the non-aggression principle. There's thousands of social media channels. You can start a podcast for free. Spotify, SoundCloud, there's YouTube. I mean, just, there's a million different ways to go about it. Write a book, start a blog. There's all different things you can do. So the excuse that you have to promote a coercive monopoly in order to spread the message of liberty is bullshit. It's complete bullshit, and it's a poor, sorry excuse for statism.
I guess I would. I'm kind of surprised. I actually would take the opposite side and say, technically, yes, in a sense, I brought a shitload of people to liberty, and like I said, I might be wrong. Everything I say, caveat this, or that I might be wrong, because I'm just some dude fucking talking on the internet. But I would take the fucking stance that how much inspiration did he push for people to engage in the political system? You know what I mean? Like, and if we're looking at it from a short term, yes, and that doesn't mean, I feel like everything comes with mixes. And like, you know, I could be completely wrong. It could be that he actually did more good than bad. I think he is the same thing as like he brought with the LPMC, with the reason why they are a dangerous element is because they are, in our opinion, going tactically the wrong way, but they are very much on message with what we believe for the most part. But they're going the complete opposite way tactically. And that's kind of would be my opinion with Ron. I could be completely wrong. I want to be wrong because I fucking love Ronnie. So I would be like, he's a goddamn angel. There's no way he did anything wrong. But I mean, yeah, I don't know. I think there is some argument to how much, how did he, like, how many more agorists could we have? How many more people would not be engaged in the political system? Because so many people are in the liberty movement, but how many of those people are in the liberty movement and now are like, I need to be politically involved, just like Ronnie, you know? And now he's also like, look at what's in this very, people are going, what about Ron Paul? What about Ron Paul? So now he is this precedent for why we should engage in the political system. You know what I mean?
Well,
I mean, I want to be wrong. I love Ronnie.
I think that the fact that Ron Paul was so clearly the best candidate for the presidency in both 2008 and 2012, he was leagues above his competition. The fact that he was so clearly the best candidate and was still nevertheless railroaded by the two-party duopoly only shows the inefficacy of political solutions to liberty, right? It just shows you, like, the FEC essentially represents the cartelization of the red market, right? Just like the Federal Reserve has cartelized the banking industry, and the taxi cartels have cartelized the transportation industry, and so on and so forth. Well, the FEC essentially is just the cartelization device that Republicans and Democrats use to cartelize the red markets. And, they're not going to, the Federal Reserve doesn't take well to competition on the dollar. The FEC won't take well to competition on their political monopoly. So that's why the Libertarian Party is always getting railroaded. Any little bit of success that they actually do have, the standards for entry, just the barriers to entry just get bumped up even higher because it's a cartel. It's not supposed to work fairly. And that's what that's one of the things that I think Ron Paul really showed, right?
Yeah, I mean, my point, though, would be that, yeah, you're right, but I don't feel like that's the message people got out of it. People, the message that, oh, look, we can engage in the political system and, we can make inroads and look at all that spawned out of this. And maybe they're right. I don't fucking know. Because it's not as simple as people want to make it as simple as it's good or bad. But I feel like sometimes is it more good or is it more bad? Who fucking knows? I don't know. We're kind of like, I mean, it's not something that can be easily quantified,
Yeah, no doubt. There is definitely some aspect of that. And like, we're still dealing with that, right? Like Ron Paul ran for president 10, 12 years ago, and we're still listening to people being like, oh, what about Ron Paul? What about Ron Paul? So you're right. But on the other hand, Ron Paul, like, was the entry point for so many people into the liberty movement. Like, if it wasn't for Ron Paul, I wouldn't be here speaking with you right now. And like, I have convinced like a significant number of people to join the Agorist community. I'm sure that's true for you and other Agorists who Ron Paul, I don't know your origin stories, but I'm sure there's a lot of people who Ron Paul brought into the movement who eventually became Agorists and recruited other people to the Agorist movement. One of the things Conkin says on this is that it's okay for us to infiltrate some of the more radical bands of statists for the purposes of recruitment. So there's nothing wrong with, posing as a member of the Mises Caucus for the sole purpose and intention of recruiting their members to the counter economy. That's completely fine.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in their group on Facebook. I'm in their group on Facebook. I mean, I don't go in there and cause problems. I just like to see what's going on. but I get what you're saying.
That's what I mean. That's what I mean.
Oh, yeah. Speaking of the LPMC, the next tweet that I want to bring up is someone said he called the MC Mises Caucus the most dangerous part. Pretty dumb statement. So I wanted to give you a chance to elaborate on why the LPMC is such a dangerous element of the partyarchy. I mean, we kind of got into it, but I'll give you a chance to wax on philosophical on it, you know?
Just like, you explained earlier on in the show, and like I said in the original post, in the original tweet, they sort of siphon anarchists from the counter economy, and they persuade them to waste their efforts on the partyarchy, and they do it very, very efficiently because the radical anarcho-capitalists are immediately drawn to the Mises Caucus, right? So like most of the people who we should be recruiting look at the Mises Caucus as an ally, and they're saying, oh, look, our ally has this struggle, they have this battle that they want us to be part of, they want us to help on. And like the human mind, like they fall for that, right? Like, oh, there's a struggle, there's a battle, there's a group that I want to be part of, and we're going to engage in this fight together, and we're going to overcome the odds. Like, there's like something like fundamental about human nature that's drawn to that, like that sort of underdog story. But it's all bullshit. It's all bullshit. It's designed for you to think that way. And like our goal as agorists is to sort of pull the people like away from like the tractor beam, in a sense, if that makes any sense. But
yeah, it was Konkin himself that said that we shouldn't be, essentially, to put it in modern day terms, we shouldn't be pulling from the normies for agorists. We should be pulling from,
exactly.
I mean, not to say we should be, but we should be pulling from the ANCAPs, essentially. That's who we should be pulling from. We should be pulling from the people who are already there. Or maybe even you can make a case for the ANCOMs, at least maybe not ANCOMs, but like ANSOCs, the ones that are like not so crazy about the whole property stuff. But you get on the extreme anarchists, the ones we should be pulling from, you know? I know you've talked about that before. You've done a whole podcast on that one before. Go ahead.
Yeah. I think everyone has a sort of different path to liberty. I know people who, like me, it took me a long time. It took me a really long time to go from, constitutionalist, really like, libertarian party guy to where I am today. It was a long journey. But on the other hand, I know people who, as soon as they were introduced to the liberty movement, they were like, oh, agorism is the right answer. So, I mean, Konkin said to direct our resources towards the most radical bands of ANCAPs. I think that's a good idea, but especially nowadays with like social media, we're able to sort of cast a wide net and catch a whole bunch of different fish.
Yeah, you said it good, because that's what I was trying to say is not necessarily only focus on like ANCAP types, but that should be where we direct most of our resources. So like, I mean, I'm not going to be hitting up, your generic, fucking Republican and be like, hey, agorism. They're going to be like, fuck off. Like, if I bring it up to an ANCAP, I can talk to them a whole lot better. Oh, go ahead.
Right. A quick little story, like a quick little example. I have somebody who listens to my show, and they just started listening like not that long ago, and they have dove in headfirst into the agorist philosophy. I mean, they listen to every agorist podcast, they read all of our blogs, and they've only been doing this for like a month or two, and now they just contact me that they're starting their own business, their own counter-economic business. They're gonna like become an entrepreneur, and it's just really exciting to see people make that change.
Oh, sorry, you threw me off. Your lips were still moving on my side. We got a little bit of a lag still going on here. Threw me off.
Which is weird.
All right, let's move.
We're close by.
Let's move into the next one. Yeah, I know. It doesn't make any sense. We're like, we could almost like do this. We could have like gone to his house and done it or whatever. We're so close.
We should next time.
Right. So next one, this is kind of opportunity to go into, even amongst agorists. This one's the one that's like a lot of people didn't read. Because like agorist class theory, we talked about this a little bit before. That was done by Wally Conger, which he he pulled excerpts from some of Konkin's unfinished work and used it to do agorist class theory. And the thing is, a lot of people have an issue with is some of the versions of New Libertarian Manifesto have it and some don't. I actually fucked up because when I first got it, the one it didn't have it, and then later I was like, God damn it, I want to read that, so I had to buy the other version that had it. So, pro tip: if you're trying to get into reading this, get the version that has the New Libertarian Manifesto that has Agorist class theory in it, because that's the only place you can really get it. So you're going to end up buying NLM twice if you don't. So, but anyways, back up a little bit. One person says he called them statists. Those are fighting words. They're referring to, I guess at one point you called the LPMC or someone in the thread, you call them statists. So I'll give you an opportunity to kind of go into that and how it wasn't necessarily an ad hominem, because they were trying to get at how you were like basically name calling. But I'll let you explain how it's not necessarily name calling. You were being more factual, coming from the framework of an agorist.
Right. I'm not sure what specific comment they're referring to. I could probably explain better if I had the context, but just in general, like speaking in general, I think that partyarchy is inherently an institution of the state, right? A political party is an institution, is a political institution, right? So you can't really separate like party politics from the state. So if you're engaging in statist institutions, I don't know what else to call you. I'm sorry, but that's what it is. It's statism. And then they say, oh, but we're trying to, use the state to fight the state. And again, going back to what we said earlier, those sort of arguments are nonsense because they're logically inconsistent. So yeah.
Yeah, what we're getting at though is how agorist class theory, Konkin defined statists as those who utilize the state for their means. So that would be, because he had a different idea when it comes to class theory than because people hear class theory and they think of Marx and they think of the bourgeoisie and they think of the the proletariat. And but with Konkin, it was statists and non-statists, yeah. And he was getting at how, I was getting at how the statist was just anyone who utilizes the state to their means, and that was how Konkin broke down his class theory. So, yeah,
right. Well,
all right, next one. Oh, go ahead. Yeah. Sorry.
My bad. I was going to say real quick, Marx breaks it down between the proletariat and the bourgeoisie, and we agorists think of it, sort of, he got it right in the sense that there's two classes, but he misidentified both of those classes, right? It's not the proletariat versus the bourgeoisie, it's the statist oppressors versus the agorists versus counter economists. And I think you hit the nail on the head again, because anybody falling under that definition would have to include a member of the partyarchy. So yeah, I would agree with that 100%.
Mm. All right, next one. Not all politics is immoral, and the counter economics has its limits. So what I was getting at is what I want to focus on here was whether engaging in politics is immoral. Because I'll give my take. For me, engaging in politics, I would not necessarily say it's immoral. I would take Spooner's take, and that it's not immoral, that you can make the case that you are doing it in self-defense. But my personal perspective is that it may not be immoral, but I think tactically it's kind of retarded. I think if you really look at it from a long-term perspective, I think it does more damage than it does good. So engaging in it is not good. But I don't think it's necessarily immoral, because I do think you can look at it from a self-defense perspective. But so I wanted to get your take in whether all politics are immoral or not. So, and I'll give you a chance to explain if you.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah. I think I would say that participating in politics is both immoral and not pragmatic, right? It's immoral in the sense that no one has the right to choose a master to impose on their neighbors. So you could say oh, I'm going to vote in self-defense, but maybe your self-defense is going to spite your neighbor. You don't have the right. No one has the right to do that. So it's immoral. I think it's immoral, but it's also not pragmatic because it doesn't work, right? 5,000 years of governments, of political organizations, they have failed. They have not produced an ounce of liberty yet. The only thing that's produced liberty is counter economics. So participating in politics is, I think, in my opinion, both immoral and not pragmatic.
Okay. All right. I'm not going to go too much into that because that could be a whole episode. And yeah. Next one, I don't see them siphoning away from the counter economy. If anything, I think they would increase the amount of agorists. They will draw some of those small-time libertarians in, and when the concept fails, they'll take the next leap. I think that's interesting. My perspective is, I think that's an interesting perspective, but at the same time, we're talking about specifically something like the LPMC, and I actually think they could possibly keep people trapped in their, not to say they're evil, or in their clutches for longer because of the fact that they're coming from more of a principled perspective. So I do think that was an interesting one because that's what got me a lot into agorism. Joe Jorgensen, I was very like, go JoJo or whatever the fuck at first, and then that's when I jumped onto agorism and I was like, what the fuck is this? So I guess I can kind of see where he's coming from.
I think it's kind of crazy to say like, well, the LP Mises caucus will draw libertarians in, and then once it fails, they'll see how great agorism is. That's sort of like saying like, if you wanted to teach somebody how to swim, like put them on a sinking ship, and then they'll learn how to swim real quick. Like that's not how you teach somebody how to swim. That's not how you teach somebody agorism, by throwing them into the halls of Congress. That's crazy. So no, I don't. I reject that as well. I think that's a logically inconsistent way to approach it.
Yeah, I thought it was an interesting perspective, but yeah, I kind of do see with a failing of that. But there is something to that because there is like I feel like a lot of us agorists come from like we were engaged and then something was like, nah, fuck this, and we bailed. So like,
Yeah.
It was a little bit of like I got really disappointed with what was going on, and I read Conk, and it was the conjunction of the two. So
100%,
yeah.
100%. I agree with you. I agree with you, but I'm not sure that that's a valid reason for us to be telling people to like, go join the Mises caucus. You know what I mean? But I understand what you're saying.
Go join the Mises caucus. Disappoint you.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Go join the Mises caucus to be a failure. Ugh.
All right, this is going to be the last one. I thought this was interesting. It said, and I kind of give my thought on it. Why left is dominating power structures and narratives while we bravely vegetables and hide guns. So I kind of wanted to get into. I think there's something there in they try to be like, oh, the left is dominating power structures, but my thing I was getting at is the reason why is because they dominate the culture. It's not necessarily they dominate politics, but the reason they also do somewhat dominate politics, that's also part of their culture. Whereas us as libertarians, that's antithetical to our culture. So for us to try to dominate politics is just going against nature. Like even the most, I guess, minarchist of libertarians, it's just not. It just doesn't follow. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No. I totally agree with you. Can you read back that comment one more time for me?
Yeah, I know it's a handful. Why the left is dominating power structures and narratives while we bravely grow vegetables and hide guns. Right. So obviously, there's the aspect of the left, dominating power structures, and obviously the ad hominem of agorists, or those who grow vegetables and hide guns.
Well, see, like that's the whole interesting. There's like, again, when we speak about people who like comment about agorism, don't really understand it. This is a good example. We don't exist in the current power structure. The whole point of agorism, the most enticing aspect of agorism is that we offer people instantaneous liberation, like that. Like it's not a process. As soon as you understand agorism, you understand that you're already free and that you're just being oppressed, that no one has the right or the ability to take that from you. Then you've already fallen out of the existing power structure. Statist laws don't apply to counter economists, and I think that's one of the. This is a point that Per Byland covers in his brilliant little article called "A Strategy for Pushing Back," that he wrote a long time ago. That I recommend to everybody who's interested in agorism and counter economics to read this article. But one of the things that he breaks down counter economics into two types. And one of them he speaks about is horizontal counter economics, which is just falling out of traditional power structures, right? And in creating your own that sort of bypass state regulations. So I think that, to make a long story short, I know I'm sort of just rambling, but we don't exist in current power structures.
Okay, well, that's interesting. Yeah, I get what you're getting at. My point I was getting at too is just how we, like I brought up that how we need to. I think we need to focus more on the culture, and I think that's a large part of agorism. Is like that it's kind of almost like more cultural and less political. So I think that's kind of like.
Well, I mean,
people just dominate power structures, but it's like, yeah, that's because they dominate culture. It's not necessarily they dominate politics. I mean, they do dominate politics, but it's a function of them dominating culture. You know what I mean? So that's what I was getting at. Yeah. So I mean, that's not really even necessarily agorism specific. That's yeah.
One point of caution there. If you look in Anatomy of the State on page 26, Murray Rothbard tells us that we should beware of tradition and culture, and that these things have been traditionally used against us in the past. Like, in other words, they'll say like how many people everybody listening to this show right now has had this experience. How many people do we know that have been like, my dad fought in the war, and my grandpa fought in that war, and his dad fought in that war, and now it's my turn to go to Iraq or go to Afghanistan. Like that sort of manipulation of tradition and culture is very dangerous. So, we have to be careful when we enter the cultural arena. I personally think agorists are better off limiting themselves to the economic arena, because I think that economics and politics are sort of juxtaposed. And I think that, if we can focus on economics, then we'll automatically and necessarily drain resources from political institutions.
I mean, to bring it back to Mises, which is all came from the LPMC. I mean, all of this. I mean, economics is human action. So I mean, everything in a sense does come back to economics. Basically, everything you do is essentially economics. So I mean, yeah, that does make sense. That follows.
Yeah,
I think it's probably a good spot. We've hit a lot of topics here. You wanna go ahead and drop your plugs?
SellTheAgorist.com. You can subscribe to the Agora podcast and unloose the goose. And if you're interested in checking out 3D printers, 3D Printer Go Burr, BRRR.com, and you can buy 3D printers and supplies for cryptocurrency.
Awesome. All right, for me, I'm on the No Way Jose YouTube channel. I also am basically available everywhere there's audio podcasts. I'm also on the Liberty Movement YouTube and BitChute channel. If you ever need to contact me or the Liberty Movement, hit up the Liberty Movement Global at gmail.com, or you can comment on my videos or be in the Facebook group. Like, share, subscribe, do all that good stuff. And with that, this has been a really fun episode. Thanks for coming on, Sal.
Thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it.
You hear me? Yeah. All right. Out.